Welcome to our APPA webinar series, and this is Business Continuity Planning and Dealing with Change and Adversity. Let's firstly start off by thanking our wonderful sponsors for today. Thank you to Entity Brands. Today's webinar is proudly sponsored by Entity Brands, and that's home to 13 of the world's largest uniform brands, including Nike and Port Authority. The power of brands is in your hands at entitybrands.com.au. My name is Toni. I work with a range of different organisations in New Zealand and Australia and specialise in working with small and medium businesses to improve their effectiveness and profitability with easy to follow practical ideas, tools and solutions that all work in the real world. I'm what they call a blended learning specialist these days, which all sounds a bit flash, but it basically means that I use a range of different channels to train and coach teams, including traditional classroom training, webinars, and over the last few years, I've been building my programs into fully integrated e-learning. So without a doubt, these are uncertain, frightening times, and the news cycle has been saturated with reports of COVID-19 and its impact around the world. What has risen to the surface over the past week is the deep and unprecedented economic impact. And this has happened so very, very fast. And the need to move to shore up our business is really important, and we need to do it at a really rapid pace. You need to work through what steps you're taking now to address the new economic reality and be prepared for this change, because there are all sorts of different ways in which this is going to impact your businesses over the next 2 to 3 months. Today's session will look at two key areas: business continuity and planning, as well as dealing with change and adversity. When we look at APPA and the APPA membership, we have APPA members and suppliers with us today. And what we're going to be doing is broadly looking at the economic impact in both New Zealand and Australia. And I'll make some generalisations as we go through. Now, remember, you're all very different. We have nearly 100 participants in today's session. We've got a mix of suppliers, we have mostly members, and we've got a mix of countries in which we come in. We're all going to be slightly different in terms of the markets that we work with, and we're going to be different as well as even in terms of our cash reserves and how we operate, or even when we get our supply and products from. So the impact in response to COVID-19 is similar in both countries, and you need to remember that governments are providing a range of support and advice to minimise the impact. However, regardless of these measures, there will be businesses who don't make it through these times. It will be extremely challenging. We need to make sure that to get through these times, we make as many choices as we can, and we take advantage of the different opportunities that are available to us, whether or not it's subsidies, whether or not it's different ways in which we get tax relief, and that we understand what activity and action we can take today to make a difference for us, our staff, and our businesses today. To succeed in these challenging times, we will need to make sure that we build these impacts into our business plans over the next 2 or 3 months. And I keep on saying there's no silver bullet, and there isn't, but we need to make sure that we're working through possibilities together, and we need to understand that putting in planning and preparation now will enable us to go quicker and faster when we have some type of economic recovery, or we get into whatever that new normal may be. As business owners, you need to plan and put in place strategies through the next 3 to 12 months and be able to take advantage of that eventual economic bounce back, or the new normal. Steps to take. Now, firstly, just make sure you, your family and your staff are safe. I know that seems challenging sometimes when there are some real issues for us in our business, but first of all, and our first priority must always be the welfare of us and our people. Then understand and access all appropriate assistance, and there are various measures that have been announced by the federal and state governments as well as the banking sector in New Zealand and Australia. Make sure you understand what those are, and review your business activity to minimise the impact. And there are a number of critical areas that you can review across your business to minimise the downside risks and stem any financial hemorrhaging that you may have during the economic lockdown. Contingency planning, plan B, or crisis planning, whatever it may be, working through the COVID-19 economic challenges will be a little bit of everything. And we need to make sure that this is all about being prepared for the continued economic impact of COVID-19 and quickly getting back to the new normal as quickly as possible. Usually when we're doing contingency planning, we're working through a current business plan. However, a number of the small and medium businesses that I work with don't have a business plan. There might be a financial plan with the accountant. Don't worry about it. It doesn't impact your ability to put in place some activity that'll really make a difference to your business. COVID-19 planning. Model the impact of your government assistance through a range of initiatives, including subsidies, payroll concessions, and tax relief. Review and re-review current trading budgets. Budgets and forecasts will quickly become out of date in the current environment. Reforecast regularly to take into account any challenges with your supply chain, your revenue impacts, and changes to exchange rates and headcount. And prepare a three-way financial model. And a three-way financial model is really combining your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your cash flow. So you've got a proper view over your future cash position and financial health. Carefully review and test some of these assumptions and undertake some what-if planning. What happens if 50% of your customer spend disappears? What happens if some of your key customers go out of business? How long can you sustain your business for in the current model that it is? What happens if some of these things happen in your business? Working capital. Know your working capital cycle. This is critical through this time. You need to assess your working capital on a weekly, if not daily basis, and think about, your timing of payroll runs and supplier payments that can create significant demands on your working capital and cash flow during times of liquidity strain. Review customer base and engage with customers. Immediately review your trading terms. Have a look at what you're doing with your customers. If you can move from 30 days to 7-day terms with some customers, do it. Think about some of those big orders going out if you're not already doing it. You may even want payment before the goods go out to customers. Make sure that you protect your own business at all costs through this time. Have a look at the profile of your aged debtors and follow up on any overdue debts. Understand financial pressure points experienced by your customers and suppliers and see if you can work with them to really minimise that impact. Implement payment plans where appropriate to maintain a level of cash flow. Engage with key suppliers as well. Make sure that they understand where you're at and talk to them about maybe some extensions that you might have in terms of your payment terms, and it might even be a time to renegotiate if your suppliers are not being as helpful as what you'd like them to be during a time like this. Lastly, review your loan documents. Understand key terms, covenants, and any flexibility that you have with your banking facilities. Sales and marketing. Now, through COVID-19, it is really challenging for us and our customers, especially if we don't have products going out all the time to our customers. So we must make sure that we connect and communicate with our customers on a regular basis. Talk to your customers about trends and updates of COVID-19 and maybe some different ways in which people are using products and accessing products. Think about your thought leadership position. What are you doing on your blog? What information and ideas will help your customers get back to business quicker? And of course, let them know how you're going. What are some of the things that you're doing to make sure that you're still a relevant business when we get back into the new normal. Optimize your business for e-commerce. COVID-19 is forcing even the most resistant contacts to e-commerce. These are customers that really don't like going online. They don't like using a website. Well, all of a sudden they're being forced to do that while they're in lockdown. And when they get back to work, they're really going to be ready to apply that new skill and confidence into the e-commerce environment. So if you don't have a website, if you don't trade in that way, then use this downtime to really set yourself up to optimize your e-commerce when we get back to business. Sort out your digital strategies. What are you doing with email marketing? What's happening with your search engine marketing, your search engine optimization? What's happening with content marketing? Do you have the right information around the products and categories that you sell? And what are you doing on social media? And is there something that you can do during this lockdown to really make sure that you can reset some of the strategies that you have in this area and make sure that you hit the ground running as soon as the lockdown comes off? A diamond is just a chunk of coal that did well under pressure. Keep pushing through initiatives that work for your business. Communicate with your customers. Don't fall into the low pipeline track. When we come out of the other side, make sure you've still got a pipeline in place that you can really work on from the moment that the lockdown is lifted, and be ready to close business that you've nurtured or developed through this time, because you haven't buried your head in the sand when things are tough. Here are some really nice examples around communication. On the left here, we have one from Print Plus in New Zealand, and this is really just reaching out to customers and letting them know that they're still in business, they're still working, and what's happening during the lockdown. Over on the right hand side, we have a nice LinkedIn update from Wink, and it's nice because it tells a story about some people that work within their business. It shows them working from home, what's happening, and I love the picture, the very authentic picture with this beautiful little dog watching them work in between them. And of course, there are product opportunities during this time. There are new products that are coming through, and our hand sanitizer is one that obviously we've got some challenges in terms of supply, but we've never had a more popular product. And we have here from All About Promotion a really nice email campaign that they're doing around when the new hand sanitizers are expected back into the New Zealand marketplace, and what customers can do to pre-order their branded product, which I think looks fantastic. Over the other side, we've got the social distancing signage kits. These are now available for customers to buy. So, again, this is something that didn't exist, I would have thought a month or so ago. And it just shows, when there is a need, that we will develop products that can really add value to our customers and our customer base. So the new normal, we talk about the new normal, and this means that even once we've had the economic bounce back, that it's likely that life has changed, and we need to have a think about what that may mean for us and for our customers. For example, working from home, what happens if 25% of the workforce continues to work from home? Outsourcing. With reduced staff numbers, will more jobs be likely to be outsourced, and will that maybe be outsourced in different places rather than just Southern Asia, as it has been in the past few years? Learning. Now people have been forced into video conferencing and meetings. Will there be an even bigger move further away from traditional workplace learning models and into virtual learning models? Eating out. Will the lockdown reduce the demand for cafes and restaurants as people realise the money that they've saved while they've been in lockdown? Retail. How many customers, again, that have been resistant to online shopping are now going to be shopping online? And will that even affect retail further and see a bigger merge of bricks and mortar to the e-commerce stores? Global supply chain and manufacturing. Will we be forced to look at supply from other sources? Will there be a move away from China dominance? Could India, Malaysia, Korea, Thailand be the new superpowers of supply? As businesses embrace virtual meetings, will business travel be reduced? What will happen to events and conferences? Will they change forever? Will more become virtual events, and we'll have to think about new ways in which to monetize them? Travel, will we invest in long haul travel experiences, and how long will it take for the travel industry to recover? These are questions that will really affect what the new normal looks like. And of course, the biggest one for me is, will we stop shaking hands completely? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I love shaking someone's hand. I really feel good about looking somebody in the eye and shaking their hand and smiling and having that warmth of greeting. Without that, what is the way in which we'll greet customers? And I really do hope that it's not this elbow bounce, because it really does look a bit ridiculous to me. So let's just look at planning in a little bit more detail. And I want to really simplify this. This is all about working through what you want to achieve and how are you actually going to do it. And it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. There's an old saying that if you don't know where you're going, how can you plan? How do you plan how you're going to get there? And whether or not you want to increase your turnover by 5% or you want to improve your profitability, for a plan to be successful, you need to identify the activity that will drive the result. And in the current climate, you may want to change your business goal, or even move the expected date from 12 months to 24 months, or simply park your overall business goal and really just focus on a short-term goal for the next 3 months. Whatever's right for your business is what's right for your business, but you need to make sure that you've made a deliberate decision around what your current business goals are. On a good day with everything working in our favour, this is what success looks like. So when things get hard and when they're unpredictable, it's even more likely that when we go round and round and round and round in these circles to get to this inevitable success out the other side, we're going to just keep on popping out in all sorts of different places. So we need to make sure that we've got clarity on our goals, so we know the direction that we need to get to when we come out of the tangled web that we get to in between. So we need to always make sure that we've got clarity around what that right direction is. When you're starting a normal plan, there's all sorts of different questions that you'll ask yourself, and we won't go through these verbatim. What are you doing to realise the full potential of your business? Are there ways that you can reduce costs or improve efficiencies? Are you generating enough new customers? Do you and your team have the right skills that you need to be successful now and in the future? So these are the types of things that you'd normally be working through when you're putting through your business plan. At the moment, there's a lot of what ifs we need to work through, and more than what is covered on this page. But I think that it's easier to break it down into two specific areas: your business and your economy. And you need to think about what happens if someone on your team has COVID-19. What if you get COVID-19? What are the top industries in your revenue base that are going to be affected by the quarantine, lockdown, or potentially loss of revenue going forward? What if 50% of your customers stop trading for an extended period of time or go out of business? And realistically, what parts of your business could you repurpose? Like when we were talking before about potentially if you've got a graphic artist, or if that's a skill that you've got within your business, maybe how could you grow that part of your business? And with your economy, you've got a range of different challenges around things that we can't control. What happens if the lockdown goes from 4 weeks to 6 weeks or to 8 weeks? How do we manage through that time? I think that this end date that we've got in New Zealand and Australia of sometime in April is quite reassuring, because we've kind of just got to hunker down and just get through the next month. But it's going to be harder than that, and with rents coming up and a range of other expenses that we've got in our business, April is going to be tougher than what we realise as well. So we need to understand some what ifs around what's going to happen in the economy. And I think that when we're talking about recession, and it's certainly clear that Australia and New Zealand are now talking about recession, what happens? A normal recession for us would normally be 3 months. What happens if it's 12 months? What happens if our economy has double-digit unemployment? What does that mean for us? And if we're a product like promotional products where people consume our product, what does that mean in terms of the demand that's going to come through in our business? I certainly don't have the answers, but you know your business better than anybody. You know your market, you know your customers. Asking yourself these questions on a regular basis is really, really important. I'll be asking myself these every single week at the moment. One of the things that's really important when you're talking about planning is measuring what matters. And people talk about KPIs, measurements all the time. You need to decide what matters in your business and make sure that you measure it regularly. And, during these really difficult times, you might need to change what that looks like, and you might need to have more emphasis on cash. Whatever it is, have some clarity around what that is. Any plan, we overcomplicate planning, we make it too hard, we never get to it. Whether it's a business plan, a contingency plan, a category plan, it's all about making it easy and not overcooking the process. I just start off with a really nice outlining current issues and opportunities, and then work through what is the goal. Why do I want to do it? How will I do it? Who will do the activity, and when will the activity be done? It doesn't get more complicated than that. Now, if I was doing more of a strategic plan, then I might move that into a SWOT analysis and add some more elements to it. But essentially, this is all a plan is, so we don't need to get too caught up in it. Now, goals are really important. If you don't have a goal, we said before, then it's very difficult to come out of any wobbly parts in the right time. So let's just look at something. Don't freak out. I've been a little bit controversial. I've put a pretend goal in here as an example, that I want revenue for the next 3 months to be negative 20%. It might be that I'm trending at negative 50%, so that might be pretty good. Why? Because I want to minimize the effect of COVID-19 and to keep the business sustainable with all staff employed. One of my biggest tips that I can ever give anybody when you're working through plans, block things into smaller chunks. So rather than have one big goal, so it might be that your big goal is, I want to increase my average invoice amount by $25, I might say, well, this month I want to increase it by $5. This quarter I want to increase it by 10, and this half of the year I want to increase it by 15. And it's important because it gives you micro successes along the way. It links activity timing to steps within the goal, and it allows you to change activity or the goal if the results aren't coming through. It's pretty silly kind of waiting to the end of the year and going, oh, we didn't get to $25, we only got to $20. If I'd been more focused on those micro steps, I might have been able to have a much greater impact. So it's really important at these times to step these in as much as we can. So if we use that example, so 3 different timings, it might be that my goals, and if I'm trending at negative 50% at the moment, then it might be April is negative 50, May is negative 25, and June is negative 5. So when you do the how, it's about the activity. How are you going to do it? So if I want to limit the impact and to keep my revenue to negative 20, what are the things that I need to do? So it could be, how do I get staff working differently? How do I work with customers in a new way? How do I introduce email marketing email marketing that's targeting specific offers to specific customers? There's a variety of different things. This is just an example only. Do not take this literally or pop it in your business. And I've got another example as well, where I do think this one's really worth thinking about. If you've got a team of people and you are getting subsidy for their wages and you want to maximize what they're doing through the lockdown, really think about the type of activity that they could be doing to really make sure that when the lockdown comes off or the alert levels are decreased, that we really have the ability to kickstart our businesses and support our customers. So the 3T concept is a really nice, easy concept, and it's just time frames, whether or not it's something bigger like this month, 2 months, this quarter. I like to do for sometimes I just like to, I really focus on today. What can I do today? What is one thing I can do today that's going to start moving me to where I want to go? Sometimes my 3Ts are activity based, which you can see here, or they're goal based, which you saw in the previous slide. When we talk about some of the opportunities to maximise what your staff are doing, it is so important that we recognise that as business owners and people in business, we often don't get to the things that are important, non-urgent. These are around opportunities, innovation, things that drive long-term value and often require a lot of planning. We don't get to it because we're busy being busy. We're doing all the things that we normally do in our businesses. This lockdown creates a unique opportunity for a lot of businesses to get to this stuff. And I strongly recommend that if you have wage subsidies and you've got staff that you're really trying to figure out what can we do with those people to add value, this is the stuff that you need to be focused on and you need to make it count. So if you haven't already, dust off your business plan and repurpose it for the next 3 months. Keep it simple and focused on the areas that matter most to positively impact your business. And if you don't have a business plan, don't stress. Just put in a really simple plan for the next 3 months and use your 3 T's wisely. I've got a really nice 1-page template. You can make it 2 pages, so it really doesn't matter. But I've got a nice template that'll be sent through with tomorrow's information. So just want to finish up talking about dealing with change and adversity. And these are extraordinary times. And what makes it so challenging at the moment is the complete unknown of what we're dealing with, because there's just no past modelling that we can work with. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that the unknown effects of COVID-19 are likely to trigger an emotional response. And it's likely to be fear, and that's okay, and that's normal. And that can be with you, but it can also be with your people. And to understand that it is extremely unsettling when you don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. So when we talk about change, I thought this was quite an interesting one, because we're looking at the roadshows, which of course you guys, APPA members, were planning to participate in the 2020 roadshows. And these events are not just for product trends and information, but also with or for connecting with others in your industry. So when you're looking at change, I mean, that's something it brings in big changes to how you guys work through that. And how do you connect and engage with members and suppliers and get the information that you need to be successful? I know that there's a number of ways in which APPA are really looking at ways to create virtual events for you, and that'll change the way in which you work with others and the business. So change management is the process of helping people accept and work willingly with changes, and whether or not the change is something as big and as challenging as COVID-19 or something like putting in a new point of sale system, we always need to change through business, and it is a concept that's familiar to most of us. And I think what's really exciting is this is a time that we can actually do things differently because people are more open to change than ever before. So it's really going to be up to us about how we take our businesses and our people through that process and really come out the other end with something that is sustainable and people feel really good about. When we talk about some of the triggers and ways in which you can do that, first thing that we always work on is the growth mindset. And that's really saying that your ability and your talent isn't locked in, that you are always learning and growing. And that's part of being a successful business, and making sure that you understand that it's not that you can't do something, it's that you can't do it yet. If you've never done email marketing, you don't say, I can't do email marketing, I can't do it yet. If you don't have an e-commerce site, it's not that you don't know how to set one up, you don't know how to set one up yet. And you need to have a think about how you message things and how you work with language to create that positivity around that you're constantly learning and growing through this time. And some tips and tricks for building a growth mindset is making sure feedback and coaching are part of your leadership practices, improve your EQ skills and be self-aware, redefine failure, make mistakes and learn from them, reshape your relationship with time, celebrate your progress. I do love the 3Ts, they work really well for me. Make learning a priority and build resilience. Resilience is this hard thing. I love this photo because whenever I'm facilitating group events, I always know when I want people to stand up, you can always see that at least 50% of the people are thinking, oh no, what am I going to have to do? Then I look at this photo and everyone seems so willing and able. It's amazing. And this to me looks like a group of people that are naturally resilient. Resilience is important because it means that we perform better under stress, we recover quicker, and it helps our team through the tough times. And there isn't a magic bullet or a silver bullet with this either, but some very simple tips to start building resilience. Be optimistic. Now, it is going to be extremely tough, but there is going to be a recovery. Whether or not that recovery is in 2 months or 6 months or 2 years, there will be a recovery. And I have an optimistic view of the future. I just know that right now I need to do things differently to sustain my business. Acknowledge challenges. Be the best version of yourself. And I've used this APPA picture because I think it looks really nice. Think about the things that you do that create a really positive frame for you and your people to see on a regular basis, and have demonstrated positive belief in you and your team's ability. And I think it's really important when you're talking about resilience to focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. And you can control your attitude. You can make deliberate choices every day. You can take action. You can communicate with your stakeholders. You can apply for government subsidies and tax relief. You can work through what-if scenarios. You can support your staff. You can keep up to date with information. These are things, practical things that you can do today. And if you're not doing any of these things today, then make sure that you don't worry about doing it tomorrow. You do it today. You get off this webinar and you make sure that you start to take control today, because it will make you and your team a lot more resilient. You can't control how long this is going to last. You can't even control how much toilet paper is at the store when you go to buy it. But think about what you can control and really make a difference. When we talk about making a difference, crisis does bring both danger and opportunity. And when I look at APPA and APPA members, and we look at who normally buys from us, gosh, if you're in the event market and that was 50% of your business, you're going to be having some pretty tough times. So you need to understand who will be buying what in the next 3 months, and are there new opportunities that we don't understand? Could we be working with the food packaging service and working through with what they're providing the local domestic market in a completely different way? When you're working together, you must make sure that you're using the different people that are within your network in the most effective way. And I think it's extremely important, since we're not going to have the road shows in the traditional way over April, that you really understand that your APPA network is important for your well-being. It's about sharing ideas, issues, opportunities, and challenges, and we're always better together.
And remember, when the going gets tough, the tough reinvent. If your business is struggling, don't give up. Get your creative juices flowing and think differently. How can your business adapt to meet today's market, which is so different from the market that was only a few weeks ago? And be prepared to give up the past to have some focus around what you can control in the future.
Domestic focus. So it's a catastrophe what's happened to our national airline in New Zealand. And when you talk about dusting yourself off and being resilient, my heart breaks for the business, and my heart breaks for the people within that business. They've come out this week and said, we're going to have a new focus to rebuild ourselves. We're going to have a domestic focus, and this is what we're going to do. And they've really tried to think about what can they control and how do they best build their business up to the successful business that it's been. So when we talk about crisis and opportunities that come out of crisis, it's really important that we think about, how are we actionable? Are we getting stuff done? And it's really important that we don't feel overwhelmed, because it is such an overwhelming time and there is so many news headlines that are firing at us all the time. We need to think about, what can I do today? Not what can I do tomorrow? What can I do today? And if there's something that I can do tomorrow, then why can't I do it today? What are things that I can make happen today? How can I go onto that government site and know what's available to me? How can I stay on the phone to my accountant to figure out what I do in terms of having better visibility over my cash flow? What can I do today and be actionable every single day? And when you are actionable and you're doing things, you tend to focus on doing the right things as well. It makes a big difference to your business. So key points: make sure you and your family and your staff are safe. It's a horrific time and there are real challenges, but make sure everybody is safe, and that is ultimately what's most important. From a business point of view, understand and access all appropriate business assistance. Review and implement business activity to minimise the impact. Support a growth mindset. Control what you can. Look for opportunity. Be actionable. Stay connected with the industry. Really do make sure that you use any opportunity to connect with other members within your APPA family, and of course, communicate.
There's a saying I love: rainbows come after rain. Remember that while these are challenging times for all, with care, resilience, and action, we will get through it. Stay safe, be kind, and really make sure that you plan for a different next 3 months.